Welcome to another Kings of War battle report. This week my Ogres are taking on Josh's Goblins. I've tweaked my army a wee bit. I've used a regiment of warriors lately and found them really quite handy. So I've actually increased that to 2 warrior regiments. I've added a warrior chariot regiment for a bit more get up and go. I needed some extra range, movement 8 to add to it. I've found the boomer chariots really quite handy. They've been slowly downgraded to a troop though, because I'm trying to hide them behind my front rank using their stealth ability. The 2 hordes of siege breakers have been cornerstone of the army all the way along. I've returned to the shooter in the last 2 or 3 games, horde of shooters, and that's really for a bit of long range board control. My opponents do get a bit worried about the shooters. They don't hit that often, but as Gordon tells me, I tend to roll a lot more 5s and 6s than I should, and I tend to agree with him. Manny the Mammoth, who is the big deal, he's just been solid as in all the games I've played so far. I added a Warlock with Drain Life. I've never tried Drain Life, so that's something new. I really enjoy using the Boomer Sergeants in my list. I like the scatter of 8 ranged attacks, even though it's 12-inch range. And finally, I never leave home without Nom Nom. He is the solid backbone of the army. So that is my list. Okay, and my opponent today is Josh with his Goblins. Josh has been using the Goblins for quite a while now. It's been a bit of a steep learning curve for him, but he's starting to get to grips with them, and he thrashed me in our last game, so I am quite wary of these Goblins. He uses 4 regiments of Rabble as chaff, which can be frustrating when I want to get at the stuff behind them. 3 hordes of trolls, 1 with the detonation packs, whatever they are, they blow up, got to watch out for those. The Moor Pup Mob, last game they got behind my lines and caused a lot of damage, so I want to deal with those if I can. The Mincer Mob chews through things if it gets a chance, and Josh now uses it kind of coming through as a second line when he can. Mincer, but the same as the Mincer Mob, it likes getting in and doing the business. You'll see later on, but Josh has got a very cool unit that he uses as the Goblin Blaster. They look really quite alien and really cool. The Wingit, which is probably my favourite model in the whole Kings of War range. If I was going to do Goblins, it would be simply to fly around with 2 or 3 Wingits. They are really cool. He's got a Wizard or Warlock, whatever they're called, with Lightning Bolt, Goblin King, that adds a bit of stuff to his trolls. Troll Bruiser, who tends to do a lot of damage, be quite resilient. And then he's got Magua and Joss, and again, they cause me a few problems. So I'm well and truly going to be out deployed in this particular battle. He's got 16 units to my 12. We rolled for kill scenario. We don't usually play it, but we thought that we would give it a crack this time. Okay, and you can see here the table that we used. I used one of the new tables that I had for middle of last year, and just threw together mainly some DVA and Crusades terrain I had lying about. But if we take a look at my deployment, I've got a regiment of warriors, another regiment here. They've got the Boomer chariots near them. Then here, you can just make them out. I've got the 2 units of siege breakers. When I split them up, they tend not to do so well, so I'm trying to keep them together today. Then I've got Manny. I've got the shooters here, trying to kind of cover that kind of area there with their shooting. So kind of trying to be a bit of field domination. Beside them, I've got Nom Nom. Then I have my chariots here, and I've got the Boomer Sergeant just down here, and the other. Where's the other Boomer Sergeant? I think he's up here, about here. Now, if we look over at Josh's list, you'll see around here he's got his 4 units of Rebel. out in front of his army. Getting not too bad at using the old chef. It's Josh. Behind him he's got some trolls here and here. He's got the Mincer mob again, protected by his chaff. I think that might be Magua and Joss in there. There's I think the king is down there as well. Another unit of rebel. Then he's got his other unit of trolls. Wizard is down here, as is the troll bruiser, who I probably forgot to label. Mincer here. Then he's got the wingit, and just down here he's got the more pumps, and they are going to be able to get around here, the sneaky little blighters, unless I can do something about them. So we will see how we get on turn one. And Josh is going to have the first turn. Here's another shot from behind my lines. As you can see, those more pups are able to get around the building quite easily. On Josh's left flank, he's got his units of chaff. So my aim is to try and just slow him down here a wee bit. Use my shooting. I've got quite a bit of shooting to just try and blow away a couple of the chef units and see what happens. I'm not sure if that counts as a plan or not, but we will see what happens. And here we have turn one. Josh has advanced most of his army. You can just see a wing down here of the wingit, and the more pups are down about here, just out of sight. So not much in the way of shooting from Josh. I think he did lightning bolt one of my warrior regiments by the looks of it there, but otherwise not too much to report on turn one. Another shot of turn one from my very far right flank. Here are the more pups. They advance quite far. Behind them, covering them, was the wingit. Now Josh did a bit of a measure here to stay out of range of the boomer, but what he forgot to take into account is that this unit here is well and truly in charge range of the more pups. I wasn't going to let that opportunity pass me by. My turn one, I'm advancing on my left hand flank, trying to get within shooting range for my boomers. You know, they've only got a 12-inch range, which is one of the reasons I often give the first turn to my opponent, just so that they're going to get a bit closer. It doesn't always work, but that was the plan this time. I've got the chariots up here. I've got the siege breakers in behind my front line, and many covering the flank over here near the shooters. Here we've got the boomer sergeant. Down here, this is where the more pups were. The chariots just slabbed into them and routed them pretty comfortably. So that was about the end of turn one. First blood to the ogres. Close up of my siege breakers. I use GW Gores, I think they are, or Beastigores or something. Big minotaur looking beasties as my siege breakers. There's only 3 on the base, but no one's going to come and take my models off me for not having the correct model count. They look cool, and they definitely look like they are able to punch a hole in the enemy line, hence they get to be used as siege breakers. This is Manny the Mammoth. He is one of the Song of Ice and Fire mammoths. I bought him about a week before Conquest, so I quickly painted it up, threw him into my army list at Conquest, which is a competition up in Christchurch. 4 out of the 5 games he ended up being the MVP, and that was before the big deal. The 12 attacks he had then, without rampage or anything, he was really solid in game after game. Nerve-18 helps his cause, and he likes going into bad going terrain, unlike the rest of my army. So Manny is usually one of the star performers, and very rarely does he let me down. We'll see how he goes in this one. And here we have a shot of turn 2. From my lines, we've got the Goblin Rebel back over here. Got some trolls advancing over here. Rebel, for some reason, have pushed forward. Probably just trying to chaff up some of my units. And yeah, trolls are there, and the bruiser there as well. As I said earlier, the Wingit is my favourite Kings of War model, and Josh has done a fantastic job painting his one up. Really like the dynamism, and he's got a very cunning base here. It's not actually glued on, so instead of turning his base, if he's doing a 90 degree or 180 degree, he simply spins the Wingit round, which is pretty cool. In the background, you can see the chariots of mine. This is, again, probably turn 2. As you can see, here's my chariot horde. They've cleared out the Morpup, so I could zoom around behind Josh here, but it's going to take me quite a while, probably a couple of turns to get round behind the big Lord of the Rings ruin I've got there. The Wingit is now just lining up targets of opportunity here. I think he's likely to go after my shooters to try and shut them down a bit. It's in a great flanking position. There are those goblins we saw a minute ago. They've got the bruiser beside them, and the rest of the goblin horde is putting pressure on the other flank. And here is another shot. This is at the end of my turn too. As you can see, my chariots have turned to come back across to assist. I've got the boomer. He turned to face the Wingit, hit it a couple of times, not enough to kill it. I've got Nom Nom here, shooters here. Manny has attacked the Troll Bruiser. The downside of the miniature I used, his tusks hang down low, and so tend to get in the way and prevent him from actually getting into base-to-base contact. So he ends up having to stomp on them from behind, it looks like. What I'm going to have to do is actually rebase him on a different base, maybe get some rocks so that he's a bit higher up, and probably have his tusks so they're pointing up even higher, just to try and prevent that. That's one of the problems with some of the miniatures. Chariots, I'm looking at you, that they tend to be quite hard to actually base. The chariots are just a nightmare if you want to put the correct number on them. As you can see here, siege breakers have killed the goblin rebel. Got another boomer here. I've got some trolls here, more trolls here. There are trolls over here, and I think they're the exploding ones. Sneaking around here is the blaster. So Josh is putting a lot of pressure on over here. I'm holding up a bit here and trying to avoid the mincer mob at the same time. And here's a shot from the other flank. As you can see, we've got, can't even tell what that is down there. Maybe it's trolls. That's definitely trolls. More trolls there. There goes the rebel, and they are still screening that mincer mob. Josh just working his way into getting some good charges, and as you can see, I'm screening with my regiments of warriors. I've got a warlock supporting here, and I've got the boomer chariots who are also just taking shots to try and whittle down the goblins. And then on the far side over there, there's that Wingit just ready to pick whoever he wants, really. We'll see what happens. As I suspected, the Wingit came zooming in on the flank of the shooters of mine. Did a bit of damage, but not enough to worry me, really. The shooters were quite lucky. We must be turn 3 or 4 here. The goblins have started to cause a few problems. You can see Rebel are holding up a regiment here. We've got the Magua and Joss back here. The mincer mob are looking like they're getting close as well. My siege breakers here have been flanked by a unit of Goblin Rabble, while also being hit in the front by the trolls. And just to add a little bit more support, the Troll Bruiser has done a bit of a corkscrew, darted off to hit the siege breakers in the flank as well. And Manny has then been hit by a mincer. So some cunning moves there by Josh. And here we have another shot. We've still got the blasters, haven't been able to do anything about them. We've got a unit of rebel tying up my regiment of warriors here. Still got the warlock. He's, I think he came to take a shot at those trolls, maybe. The boomer chariots, they're not that great in combat, but they were thrown in as chaff to try and slow down this troll horde. Got some siege breakers getting ready to position. Another regiment of warriors holding up those goblins there. And then that's where that big battle is taking place. Goblin Rabble in the flank, trolls in the front, Bruiser in the flank. Got a wizard back here, and the mincer is getting stuck into Manny. I've already said how much I like the Wing It model. These are my other favourite unit in Josh's army. These, I think, he got from a 3D printer company or something, but he uses them as his Goblin Blaster. He's put them on a rocky outcropping, so that they're nice and tall, so they look like they're height 2 or 3, and they just look really alien. And are really awesome models. They've done a great job painting them up as well. So they do a bit of damage if they do manage to explode. We'll see how they do today. And I think it's back to my turn. The shooters have seen off the Wingit, mainly because the chariots charged the Wingit in the rear and then and smashed it. 45 attacks. I wasn't going to survive that, and then repositioned this way. Boomer Sergeant is moving across to help cover. We've still got the Troll Bruiser in there. He's now being engaged by Nom Nom, and Manny has just squashed the mincer. Here, the siege breakers are, I think they're, yep, looks like they're wavered. The shooters were wavered, but the siege breakers managed to hang in there and not get themselves destroyed, even though they are taking on a lot of stuff. The regiment of warriors over here were also wavered. We've still got the warlock here, and he was trying to come over to use drain life. We've got the siege breakers here. My warriors here are still trying to keep these blasters at bay and also watch out for the next round of trolls and magua. So there's still quite a bit of stuff around, but so far we seem to be holding. It has been swinging backwards and forwards though, and I'm still not sure which way this game is going to go. This is pretty much the same stage. Must be about the bottom of turn 4, maybe even starting turn 5. But we are getting locked up. I'm quite happy with how things are sitting here. That may be the exploding trolls, and I haven't been able to deal with them, but I have dealt with one of the other units of trolls. At the end of Josh's turn here, and as you can see, the siege breakers are no more. My shooters are still wavered. The chariots are trying to get into position. Manny has, as I said, has destroyed the mincer. We've got Nom Nom and the Bruiser duking it out. We've got some trolls, after killing the siege breakers, have turned to face towards Manny over here as well. So things are still in the balance. Right, the main difference going on in this particular shot is that Nom Nom and Manny have both charged the trolls. I think Nom Nom will give them a bit of support, and the chariots have driven into the Troll Bruiser. Just a close-up of that action there. This little pill thing here is the Potion of Healing, which I still forget to use pretty much every game. My two main opponents, Gordon and Josh, always have quite a bit of trouble with my Siege Breakers. It's not often that I lose both of the units. Defense 6 from the front is quite handy. However, here we've got Magua and Joss hitting the Siege Breakers in the flank, and we have the Goblin Blasters are about to explode. As you can see, the Siege Breakers are already sitting on 11 wounds, so they are in quite a bit of trouble. And in front of them over here, that regiment of warriors that have been holding up the trolls far longer than they really should have. I was extremely lucky with the dice rolls for nerve tests there. So here we go. The Goblin Blasters didn't do too much damage. I'm still sitting only on 11. I'm not sure. I may have used Drain Life to heal them back up. I can't quite remember now. But the Warriors somehow are fighting on. The other Warriors have charged into the Mincer mob to try and slow it down. My chariots have got the Goblins have hit them in the flank, and now we've got the Trolls have come charging into this combat over here. So things are at that messy stage of the game where we're both just trying to do all we can to knock the other army out of contention. And from another angle, thrown in a Boomer Sergeant to try and help out the regiment of warriors here. The shooters are moving into a position to support my main combat units, and again I've got Nom Nom and Manny taking on the trolls. There really should be no comeback from being on 17 when you've only got a 12-14 nerve. So very unlucky there, Josh, that the regiment that just wouldn't die. Now the ogres don't really do too well in a grindy attrition type game, but they're pretty tough, and once the goblin units start taking some damage, they are able to just keep on top of things. So I've managed to lose both units of siege breakers now, but that regiment of warriors is still hanging in there. We've got the warlock, we've got Magua and Joss here. I've still got Nom Nom, Boomer Sergeant, shooters, warrior chariots, and Manny. So I've got points wise probably close to half my army left, and the goblins are down to basically a unit of trolls. There's a wizard over here, and that really and Magua. So there's not a heck of a lot left at the end of turn 6 for the goblins. And there we have it at the end of the game. Victory to the ogres. We've managed to probably kill, well, I don't know, approximately 1,600, maybe 1,700 points of the goblin army. And as I said, I've still got quite a bit of mine left. Those siege breakers can be hard to kill. And once I did get in combat, I did manage to slowly chip away at the goblin unit. So it looks like it was a bit one-sided there, but actually that was only really the end of turn 6 that it looked like that. Turn 4 and 5, I felt it was very much still in the balance. My troops were, better quality than a lot of the goblins, but Josh was really starting to get his flank charges and things working, so it wasn't an easy game. I really struggled to get through the rebel towards the start of the game, and Josh is getting really quite good at how he positions the chaff. He was setting units up so that they got stuck with the chaff, and that was opening up flank attacks quite nicely. So he's doing really well. He, as I said earlier, he absolutely thrashed me last week when we had the first game in quite a while, and so now the Ogres have bounced back. But it was a really good, fun game, and there was some as I said, there were some outrageous dice rolls. I think we had 5 lots of double sixes for nerve tests, and we also had Josh rolling double ones against that regiment 2 rounds in a row, which is pretty much unheard of. So thanks very much for the game, Josh. Really enjoyed it, and look forward to having another game against the Goblins soon. And I'm really happy with the balance I'm getting with my Ogres. I've probably had over 20 games with them now, and I just do a little bit of fine tuning each game. I'm still unsure. I'm quite tempted to. I quite like to drain life. I hadn't tried that before. Maybe trying to get a second unit of a second warlock with drain life rather than a boomer sergeant. I'm not sure, but I do really like those boomer sergeants. I use them mainly as chaff pieces and to shoot at flyers, because things, as you saw with the winger in this battle, it's pretty easy to get around behind the ogres, and then I am in trouble. Gordon's ripped my army to shreds a couple of times recently by using werewolves to get round behind my units, turn the flanks, and really cause some mischief. So the boomer sergeants are one of my counters to those kinds of units, and I find them really quite handy for their points. Sure, they don't inspire like warlocks, they don't have the 24-inch range of the lightning bolt, but 8 piercing 1 shots, hitting on 4s with a range of 12 and a move of 6 for the ogres. 2 of those near each other, that's not too shabby at all. Anyway, enough waffling for me. Thanks for listening. Ka kite anō.